Shalom to everyone. This is Pastor Sylvester. In our society, wealth is often equated with material possessions, financial success, and worldly achievements. But scriptures remind us of the fleeting nature of such riches. Have you ever wondered why, despite amassing considerable wealth, some people still feel a nagging emptiness within? The reason is simple. True wealth isn't found in the amount of money in our bank accounts, the luxury cars we drive, or the size of our mansions. These are fleeting, transient riches that can't truly satisfy the longing of our souls. The Bible, in Matthew 6, verses 19 to 21, provides a profound perspective on this. It says, "Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moths and vermin destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moths and vermin do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." In other words, the treasures we accumulate here on earth are perishable. They can be damaged, stolen, or lost. But the treasures we store in heaven, the spiritual investments we make, are imperishable and eternal. They can't be touched by moths or vermin, nor can thieves break in and steal them. It's a sad reality that many of us spend our entire lives chasing after material wealth, only to realize too late that we've been running after the wrong thing. We've been seeking satisfaction in the wrong places. We've been investing in the wrong kind of treasure. The Bible is clear. Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. If our hearts are set on material wealth, then our hearts will be as fleeting and unstable as the wealth we seek. But if our hearts are set on spiritual wealth, on the imperishable treasures of heaven, then our hearts will be secure, stable, and satisfied. So let's shift our focus. Let's stop chasing after the wind and start investing in what truly matters. Let's start storing up treasures in heaven. Our focus should not be on accumulating earthly treasures, but on investing in eternal rewards. It is through service that we find our true wealth. Let us explore the wisdom found in the Bible regarding true wealth in service. Firstly, we are called to generosity. Proverbs 11 verses 24 and 25 enlighten us about the law of giving and receiving. It says, "One person gives freely, yet gains even more. Another withholds unduly, but comes to poverty. A generous person will prosper. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed." This passage illuminates the principle that when we give freely, we not only make a positive difference in the lives of others, but we also open ourselves up to receive even more blessings from God. It's a divine cycle of giving and receiving. Next, we explore the blessing of giving. In Luke chapter 6, verse 38, we find this principle reiterated. The verse says, "Give and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together and running over, will be poured into your lap. For with the measure you use, it will be measured to you." This passage teaches us that the measure of our giving determines the measure of our receiving. It reminds us that God's blessings are plentiful and overflowing when we give with a generous heart. Lastly, we consider the joy of selflessness. In Acts chapter 20, verse 35, the Apostle Paul recounts the words of Jesus, saying, "It is more blessed to give than to receive." This profound truth highlights that the act of giving brings greater joy and fulfillment than the act of receiving. It encourages us to shift our focus from self-centered pursuits to selfless acts of service, which ultimately leads to a more fulfilling and abundant life. So, what does all this mean for us today? It means that true wealth is not found in the accumulation of material possessions, but in the service to others. It means that we are called to be generous, to give freely of our time, talents, and resources, and to focus on the needs of others. It means that the more we give, the more we receive, and the more we serve, the more we are blessed. When we live by these principles, we experience a shift in our mindset from scarcity to abundance. We start to see the world not as a place of limited resources, but as a place of unlimited opportunities to serve and make a difference. We start to see ourselves not as consumers, but as contributors, not as takers, but as givers. And as we serve others and give of ourselves, we tap into the true wealth that God has designed for us. We experience the joy, the fulfillment, and the abundance that comes from living a life of service. When we prioritize the needs of others and use our talents to bless and serve them, we tap into the abundant life that God has designed for us. Let us now explore two Old Testament stories that exemplify the riches found in a heart dedicated to service. Our first story takes us back to the days of Abraham, the patriarch of faith. In Genesis 13, we find Abraham and his nephew Lot facing a predicament. Their flocks and herds had grown so much that the land could not support them living together. Strife arose between their herdsmen, a situation that threatened to create a rift between Abraham and Lot. Abraham, being the elder, could have asserted his right to the choicest grazing lands. However, he chose a different path. He offered Lot the first choice of the land, a remarkable display of generosity. Abraham's trust was not in the earthly riches that he could see, but in God's provision. He believed that by sowing generosity, he would reap blessings. And indeed, he did. After Lot chose the fertile plains of Jordan, God promised Abraham that all the land he could see, to the north, south, east, and west, would belong to him and his descendants forever. God also promised to make his descendants as numerous as the dust of the earth. Abraham's generosity paved the way for an abundance that far exceeded earthly riches. Our second story brings us to the life of Joseph, a young man who understood the value of service. In Genesis 37:50, we journey through Joseph's life, which was marked by trials and tribulations. Betrayed by his brothers and sold into slavery, Joseph could have succumbed to bitterness. However, he chose to rise above his circumstances. He served diligently in Potiphar's house, earning his master's trust. When falsely accused and imprisoned, he didn't wallow in despair. Instead, he served his fellow prisoners and used his unique gift of interpreting dreams to benefit others. His service did not go unnoticed. When Pharaoh had troubling dreams, Joseph was called upon to interpret them. With God's wisdom, Joseph not only interpreted Pharaoh's dreams, but also proposed a plan that would save Egypt from a severe famine. His humility and service led him to become the second most powerful man in Egypt. But Joseph's wealth was not in his high position or the riches that came with it. His true wealth was in his heart of service, his unwavering faith, and his steadfast integrity. Despite his trials, Joseph chose to serve others and honor God. And in doing so, he discovered an abundance that transcended material possessions. As we can see from these stories, a heart of service and generosity leads to true wealth and abundance. From Abraham's generous spirit to Joseph's humble service, we see that the path to true wealth is not about accumulation, but about giving, serving, and trusting in God's provision. These stories remind us that our greatest riches are not counted in gold or silver, but in the lives we touch and the love we share. So let us strive to be rich in good deeds, generous and willing to share. For in doing so, we lay up treasure for ourselves as a firm foundation for the coming age, so that we may take hold of the life that is truly life. As we can see from these stories, a heart of service and generosity leads to true wealth and abundance. In conclusion, true wealth is not about material riches, but about the mindset of service and generosity. We have journeyed through the wisdom of the Bible, which reminds us not to focus on earthly treasures, but instead to invest in eternal rewards. We've seen the richness that comes from a spirit of generosity and the fulfillment found in selfless service. We've also explored Old Testament stories that exemplify the abundance that comes from a heart dedicated to service, like Abraham's generosity and Joseph's humble service. This journey has shown us that true wealth lies not in what we have, but in what we give. It is found in service, in generosity, and in a heart that seeks to enrich the lives of others. May we strive to cultivate a spirit of generosity and service, for therein lies our true wealth. Until next time, stay blessed and keep enriching the lives of those around you. With love, Pastor Sylvester.